Captain's log, stardate 51408.6. I've been aboard the Honshu for 2 days now, and I still haven't spoken to him, although the doctors have assured me that he's made a full recovery. Maybe that's what I'm afraid of. Maybe I prefer to think of him as a crazy man, a broken man. He'd be less dangerous that way. As terrible as it sounds, there's a part of me that wishes he were dead. But that's a thought unworthy of a Starfleet officer. He lost an empire, he lost his daughter, and he nearly lost his mind. Whatever his crimes, isn't that enough punishment for one lifetime? Welcome back aboard, listeners. This is the Good Ship Hit or Miss Star Trek, and I'm your host, Michael Wilson, back in the captain's chair, steady hands at the helm. Joining me in the first officer's seat once again is our ever diplomatic, ever stylish official ambassador to Cardassia, Lady Vean. Welcome. Welcome back, V. How are you doing?
Diplomatic. That was so generous of you.
I mean, there were some hidden inverted commas in that word that I was...
Do we have an ambassador of
What do you call
Cardassia
that in
among
England?
us?
Sarcasm.
Yes,
That's what...
always. I'm the queen. What do you call that in England? A left-handed compliment?
No, we just call it sarcasm.
Okay. I
No.
accept your retribution and wear it like a twisted badge of honor, in the words of Dukat.
I keep forgetting that not
like
everybody
that.
knows how obsessed you are with Cardassian things, so I guess today is going to have to learn that firsthand. We're continuing our deep dive. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say apologies to listeners. I'm not feeling my best today, so if I'm a little off my game, that's why.
Oh, well, you can't give a proviso like that and, cover yourself with glory. I could pretend to be unwell, but I'm just bad sometimes. But as I was saying, we're continuing our deep dive into the complex and often painful legacy of Cardassians and Bajorans in Star Trek. And this week, things get very personal. We're absolutely thrilled to be joined by a very special guest, friend of the pod, Sci-Fi Queen, and all-around icon, the one and only Nita. Welcome, Nita.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, Vean obviously isn't at her best, but I am, so I've got nothing to blame for being bad at podcasting except myself. So
Yeah, but
we'll
I'm
see.
excited to have a girl backing me up for once.
How dare you?
Absolutely. Girl power.
Yes.
Power might come through here.
I've got a
Let's see,
sci-fi queen and a
see.
Cardassian queen, and I'm just getting ganged up on left and right.
That is so true. You're about to get ganged up by queens.
Yes, exactly. Before I forget, by the way, thanks for including me on your Sci-Fi Queens episode that just went out at time of recording. And including
no,
everybody.
wonderful. Thank you for participating.
No, it was good. Everybody's things were very good and quite thought-provoking, so I was pleased to be a part of it. And sorry it was a little bit longer than the couple of minutes you asked for initially.
No, it was perfect. It was excellent. No worries.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll probably leave a link to that in the episode description. I do recommend always checking out the Sci-Fi Queens podcast. Yeah, that's good. And as I say, I always recommend going on to there. But today we are talking things hit or miss Star Trek. And together, we three are going to break down one of Deep Space Nine's most intense and unforgettable episodes, as I'm sure you can see, the episode Waltz from season, I believe, 6. But don't worry, we'll get to that emotional minefield shortly enough. First, we've got our usual hit or miss segment coming your way. And before that, it's time to warm things up the only way we know how, by opening up the comms for hailing frequencies open.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Now, we'll be keeping it short this week because I've definitely already asked you, Nita, about your Star Trek preferences and what got you involved. I do remember you saying you were an original series girly more than anything. So.
Yes, that's how I started.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
there
I've
were reruns by the time I was watching them, but I still started there.
Yeah, and I definitely know all about Vean's preferences because we talk all the time, so there's no need to get into that. But since you are here, Nita, I thought I may as well ask. We're dealing with Bajoran and Cardassian episodes and things this season. Do you have anything that fits into either or both of those species that you especially like, a character, a storyline, or an episode or two that you wanted to shout out as being the best?
I really love when the Deep Space Nines brings these two very warring, very different peoples together. The episode where the Kai was trying to negotiate a peace treaty, and it was really Baral who did it while dying. That was a really good episode because it really showed the contempt and the hate that they were still existing among the Bajorans, rightfully so, towards Cardassians, but it also showed that willingness to work through it and really grow as a people. And I really like that they didn't hide the contempt, they didn't hide the anger, and they didn't hide, just because she's a religious leader and a leader of a people, they didn't hide those emotions, and they made it difficult for her, and they made it challenging for her because that's real. Any leader who suffered on the hands of another country will have difficulty creating peace with that country, even if it's for the betterment of their own country, right? And I think they made it so real that it really was relatable. So I really did enjoy that episode a lot.
If I could
That's
piggyback
awesome,
off of that, I think one of the things that makes that episode in particular so impactful is that you have to have a powerhouse performer like Louise Fletcher to carry that kind of depth. And there's so few people who can do it, and she's such a master of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As much as we hate her as Kai, she was hated because her skill sets made it so that we would hate her, and she did an incredible job.
Yeah, well, she's an incredible actress, especially at playing a terrifying villain. Just look at, if you've never seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the Nurse Ratched character.
Yeah,
such an amazing,
terrifying, an amazing performance as well. I mean, in terms of absolutely hating the character, but that's a great job by the actress involved, obviously. So, but yeah, I was going to say it's a shame we haven't really had a chance to dive into any Kai Wynn episodes, as I was focusing more on Cardassians and Bajorans this time around. But hopefully in future we will, because there's lots of richness there. So yeah, and a very interesting character, and one that hasn't come up actually when I've mentioned Bajorans and Cardassians, but yeah, definitely a character that I responded to. Not necessarily liked, obviously, but certainly was always kind of happy to see that you knew you'd get a powerhouse performance, as you said, and you'd get a very interesting episode out of it. So.
I mean, even the name of the episode, Life Support, was more, it wasn't just about the life support that Baral was going through and the support that he needed to survive through these negotiations, but it was really, to me, was metaphoric because it was the life of these two countries.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And and I mean, it just shows how sinister and despicable Wynn is that, Baral goes through all that and she takes all the credit for it, basically, if I recall correctly.
Oh, absolutely. She took all the credit. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I was coughing in the middle of my thought. But these two planets, yes, so thank you. These two planets really needed that because, believe it or not, Cardassian needed the Bajorans just as much as Bajoran needed to heal from the accusation.
And there's some interesting stuff over the course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over the course of DS9, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and this episode really kind of made you see the effect of what happened really had.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, before I move on, then, is there any other characters that you particularly respond to? We know you don't like Ensign Ro, we were talking off air, which is a bit of a shame. But other than that, is there any characters you do like that are Cardassian or Bajoran?
Oh, I absolutely love Ziao. She embodies both Cardassian and Bajoran in such a beautiful way because she does not give up her mother's traditions or faith just because her outward appearance is more Cardassian. But she also doesn't deny her Cardassian legacy and that she is Gul Dukat's daughter. That's like the worst father you could have. Okay. And she doesn't deny that. And I think that she really represents a balance. And I really love artwork, and the artwork that her character creates during when the founders are on the station and take over, and she's drawing these things that are really uniting these two cultures. It's actually quite beautiful. So I think Zial is like one of my favorite Cardassians. And I also really love the female scientists. I don't remember their names, but the two female scientists, that came, and
it was Galora and oh gosh, what's the other? Galora and oh, I'm gonna have to look it up now. That's gonna bug me.
Oh, I'm sorry. But those two were fantastic because they understood what had the ramifications of the occupation, and they understood the importance of working together with Bajorans.
Definitely, yeah. And I always like when you see that kind of species are not a monolith. There's not always, all one type of, they're all evil or they're all good or whatever. And there's a bit of gray in there, which is nice. So,
absolutely. Ulani was the other one.
Ulani, yeah. Ulani and
I would never have remembered that. Fair enough.
How can we forget the way that Quark says their name? It's epic. Ulani and Galora. I absolutely love the way he says their names when he brings in the bad Cardassian
fancy
wine.
sounding names. Yeah.
I can't believe nobody ever talks about Natima Lang. I mean, she's one of my. I think she is just amazing. If you guys don't remember, she's the one who, in the earlier seasons, used to date Quark back in the day, and she's part of the dissident movement. She's a professor, and again, it's showing that Cardassia is not a monolith. There are a lot of people who dissent,
You know what's so funny? I was just about to mention her. We are in the same mind. You were about to be
You do remember me saying that I put some Cardassian things in the hit or miss section this week, yeah?
You better shut up. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Don't blow it now, just in case you hit that number. You never know.
Okay.
There you go.
I mean, who? Natima? What? What are we talking
about? Yeah. Who was that? No one knows.
Well, anyway. So, that's great. That's honestly really good choices and really, again, deep thought as we would have come to expect, I think, from you, Nita. So, with that out of the way, then we'll move on to the section that gives the podcast its name, as I always say, the hit or miss section.
What about my performance? I'm not a drama critic.
Which again, you guys are familiar with, you've done before, but just so the audience know, it's a section where I put out a picture on screen if you're watching on YouTube and shout out something from the Trek universe, ask if it's a hit or a miss, debate back and forth, come to a consensus. A few of these, well, quite a lot of them are going to be related to the theme in question, so Cardassians and Bajorans, but there are some that aren't, just to keep it a little bit interesting. And again, if you've been listening this season, you know that I've, just to keep things even more random and interesting, I've kind of done it as a lottery type thing, where I've actually got 9 things. We're going to choose 4 of them, probably, and we'll pick random numbers back and forth. We'll ask our guest, and then we'll ask Vean, our co-host here, and just decide from there. And I think we know what one of them might be, but we'll see if that comes up again. So, Nita, since you are the guest, did you want to pick a number first between 1 and 9?
Ooh, let's pick 6.
Okay, number 6 is a character and is related to this theme, and I can't wait to hear the deep thoughts on this, particularly from Vean, actually. So, hit or miss for the character of Kira Maru. Nita, you picked it, so you're up first. We have to wait for Vean's thoughts.
I had to take a breath. I had to.
Oh, that's Kira's mom, Kira Nari's mom. I often wonder if that orb experience was 100% accurate. I watched the episode and I go, is it accurate? But
is that denial though?
But the orbs really don't give you inaccurate information, right? No. They really do present you with accurate past and present and future information. But do I want it to be false? Absolutely. I think it would be the most painful thing to realize that your parent was doing what she was doing. And with an enemy, like it's an enemy. This is not, but then again, I wonder if I were her, would I do anything different? Would I do it to protect my family? And I wonder if she played her part because she thought she was protecting her family. I'm very, I wonder if that's why she did it. I don't think she's a bad person or a bad Bajoran. I think she just wanted to survive, and she wanted her family to survive. And I think her husband knew that, and that's why he never spoke ill of her.
But so in terms of the character, then, I mean, we're not judging her morality, but would you say it's a hit or a miss in terms of the way the character was presented?
I think it was a total hit. I loved it. I liked that they gave you that challenging character for her.
Yeah. Awesome.
Mike, I don't think you can differentiate in this case between the character and the morality. I think that's the point of fact, the point of introducing her was because Ira Stephen Bear and the writers actually wanted Dukat and Kira to hook up, and the non-visitor said, absolutely the fuck not.
Ew, I
And so they said, okay, we're going to pivot. It'll be your mother instead. So that was the genesis of this character. And full disclosure, I actually cannot sit through this episode. It makes me physically not nauseous. Like, I had to turn it off and almost go throw up, for real. It's such a visceral reaction, and I think it's not even a question of her own personal survival, and it's because it's not. Because what would have happened to her family if she fought back? If she even had a choice to say no, she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So to call her a collaborator, I understand Kira's disgust, because Kira's not been in that position. And Kira's a different kind of person than her mother is. And her mother did some I'm coming at this from a personal perspective of somebody who was briefly homeless and had to do some stuff that I don't like to even think about, right? And so you have this character, and what option did she have but to become his concubine, right? And how does your brain cope with that? That's why we have Stockholm syndrome, right? Which is essentially a very extreme case of Stockholm syndrome going on. And if she had said no or fought back in any way, it wouldn't have just been her life. It would have been her children. It would have been her husband. It would have probably been that whole camp, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And her family is given extra rations of food, and her family is given more access to medicine because of her actions. And I think Kira should try and be a little more understanding and grateful, especially when you consider what I said in our last episode, what her fate is in the beta canon is pretty gruesome. So yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Well, with all of that, you still haven't said where you land on hit or miss for the character.
Oh, you're right. Excuse me. I think she's a soft hit for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I included it because I thought it would make for a really interesting debate, because I, like you, I'm very on the fence with this, in that obviously I wouldn't necessarily support the actions, but I also do think that, like you said, Kira at first is very blinkered and black and white in the view of things and doesn't necessarily see the bigger picture. And as you said, that her mom isn't doing this because she wants to, but she's kind of sacrificing a bit of her soul for her family. And there's a kind of weird nobility, I guess, in that. I kind of respond to that. Yeah, that's kind of the ultimate heroic act, is to kind of, throw yourself to the wolves, as it were, to save other people. And you do get the impression
especially for a woman, it's so hard. And I speak for women because I can't speak for men, and maybe it is equally as hard for men. I don't know. To put yourself in a position that she had to, and pretend that she cared about this man, because any wrong move would have gotten her and her family and that entire camp killed, because he was known for that. Or worse, thrown into, some sort of labor camp. Because some of these labor camps that they talk about in this show was horrendous. It's like, that's horrific. Like, no, maybe it's better to have just been killed. And I think that she was a hero. I think that her husband knew that. And he may not have liked what she had to do, but he knew, I think he understood, and that's why he presented her to Kira in that way, that she did what she needed to do for her family and for herself to survive. And sometimes we have to do the unwanted things to survive in life, and we can't judge that person by that.
Yeah, for sure. Just to give my last thoughts, then I would say, like I said, like you, I think the idea, I'm with you both, is a hit, because I love that it is complex and it does explore those kind of shades of grey. But there are parts of the episode I don't love. I don't like the way it's presented in the kind of midpoint, where it's like, oh, look, she's enjoying all of this luxury and this opulence that the others don't get. And I'm like, she's not, though. Isn't that kind of the point? It's like,
Exactly. I'm with you on that, because I don't think she ever presented, or the actress never came across to me. I don't know how V feels, but I never got the impression that this character was enjoying it. I think she was like, I'm surviving it. That's how I felt looking at her story.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of a different perspective. I felt for more of a psychological point of view, is that when you start to compartmentalize this stuff, and you have to, in order to survive it, you have to convince yourself of your own lie. You know what I mean? Like, she's convincing herself, yes, this is fine, and I love him. Yes. But deep down, it's not true, but she has to convince herself of that. Otherwise, she'd never be able to live with it day after day.
Oh,
as
absolutely.
you said, it's kind of potentially Stockholm syndrome as well, which is that this person's keeping her against her will, but eventually it just becomes like, does she believe that? Because it is an actual, psychological condition that can happen. So, and I love, like I said, the episode, it has all of that in it in like 45 minutes, and then also is about Kira coming to terms with this and trying to understand it. And I wish we kind of had explored it a little bit more, if anything, but I think what we got was surprising. I mean, as typical of Deep Space Nine, was surprisingly complex and deep, and there are no easy answers, but that's why I think I make it a soft hit, because of the idea of life isn't always neat, so sometimes
100%. I'm with you. Life is not always neat. Sometimes it's messy.
Indeed, but no. So I mean, that's a hit overall, I would say. Although we don't love the what happens, but we are, I think, quite understanding people. So Vean, it is your turn to pick a number between 1 and 9, please, but not 6.
We'll do 9, please.
Oh, it's a spaceship. I'm sorry.
Damn you.
I always include at least one. I think this is it is in fact the only one on here, but you've managed to hit it. So I have to respect the lottery. It's a Discovery era ship, but the image will be on screen if you want to see what it looks like. So hit or miss for the USS Edison. And Vean, you picked, so you can give your thoughts on this.
Nope, that's a miss. Don't like it. Nope. No. That is hideous. What are they even doing? That's like the Defiant Millennium Falcon with a little thing stuck on the bottom. No, I'm not digging
it. Wow. Tell me what you really feel. But you can't really see. This is a terrible angle, because it does actually have 2 nacelles attached to it that are underneath, but you can't really see them. It looks a bit like a single thing. There's no drive section as such. It's kind of, as you said, Millennium Falcon-esque saucer.
That looks like a hair clip.
Yeah.
Like a really ugly hair clip.
Oof, I totally see that.
Yeah, no.
I really can't, but I'm trying.
You really got to get into your hair clips, Michael, really.
Hey, man, I used to share a room with a sister. I've seen plenty of them lying around. I've stood on a few. So yeah, Nita, hit or miss? Is that a silly question?
Oh my God, that is such a miss. No, they need to decommission that, break it apart, and just put the parts into something better, because this is horrible. I don't even understand this layout. Like, it's not Federation. It doesn't scream Federation. It screams, we don't really know who we are.
Okay.
What planet? Like, it's confusing. No, it's gotta go. Tell me it's a miss for you. Tell me, Michael, you are not.
I actually quite like it, to be perfectly honest.
Oh no!
But part of it is because I have the model of it, so you can kind of see what they were going for. You can kind of see the various angles and stuff, because I do admit it doesn't really photograph well, and the various angles of it are a bit wrongish. But when you can see it, what they're going for, and I will say, Strange New Worlds has started to change the Discovery. They're bringing the Discovery ships back, but giving them the proper nacelles. They're like rounded ones that are on the Enterprise, which does improve them immensely, because the square ones are kind of silly. Yeah, I kind of like this. I like the Star Trek Online version as well, which is updated for like the 25th century. So it's kind of it's more white, and it's apparently a temporal science vessel of some kind, and looks a little bit nicer perhaps than the kind of gunmetal gray of this one. I like it enough, but I'm certainly not going to try to argue with either of you. Like, you both have very valid points, and part of the reason I put it on here was like, I think this is going to be one that I like, and I'm going to be very much on my own. Yeah,
you are all alone with your starship. Okay.
I love spaceships, though, to be fair.
I like spaceships too. This one, it's a pass for me. Nah.
Fair enough. Well, that's.
I mean, I'll get on it if they're rescuing me. I'll get on just about anything. The bird of our hay would be nice too. But
if you're being rescued from a terrible situation, you're not going to wait for the pretty ship to come. You're just getting on.
No, I would prefer the pretty ship, but no, I'm with you on that.
Fair enough. Apologies then, Vean, for you wasting that turn a little. We may come back to you. So, Nita, would you like to pick another number between 1 and 9?
2.
2 is a character, but is not Cardassian or Bajoran. And I think Vean accidentally gave thoughts on this character, even though they've been on this list for a while. Let me try and find the picture, even though you're going to know who I mean. But yeah, hit or miss for Naomi Wildman. And Nita, it's your turn.
Oh, Naomi Wildman. She's a total hit. I loved her character. I think she really helped Seven explore a part of her that she never got to do because she was assimilated as a child. I think she's brilliant little girl, but I think she's full of anxiety.
Understandably
so. And I think that her character was written to adapt very well to a situation where truly she was alone, because everyone was grown, right? And she's the only child. But I think that it was a good character, and it would have been nice to see more of her, and more of her growth. They really, I wish they explained why she grew so fast more. They did a little bit of an explanation, but not enough to really understand, not for me anyway. But no, I think she's definitely a hit. I loved her character. I thought she was adorable.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Vean, then over to you.
Oh yeah, Naomi's definitely a hit for me. She's not like in my top 10, like, oh, I love this character, but she's definitely a hit. I think she was well written. I think she was well performed for a child actor. You have somebody who's not like you're watching them and going, oh God, child actors. She really had a natural sort of a knack for speaking in a way that was organic. And doing expressions, even in this one that you have on screen, that's a very organic, natural kind of expression. And I think she had a lot of good byplay with Seven. I think she gave Neelix a little more to do once they got out of, initially his area, which was like, his relationship with Kes and his knowing that section of the quadrant, because now they're in a part of space he doesn't know. So what do you do with him? So gave him a little more to do. And really brings home the fact that this could be a generational ship. I mean, it's going to take them, 70 years to get home in theory, and who's going to be running things. I mean, people will eventually start dying off, and well, I think it raises the stakes a bit. And I really love her interaction when they have the other Borg children temporarily as well. So yeah, I think she's a good character, and I think she's well played.
Awesome. Yeah, and again, I'm not going to dissent with you again this time after disagreeing when it came to the ship. I also think Naomi's a massive hit. As I say all the time, child actors, it's very rare to have them not appear precocious. And I don't think Scarlett Palmer's was. I think she was actually a really good actress in that role, even at a very young age. And it's a shame I don't know if she is still acting, but I haven't really seen her in anything since she kind of grew up and got older. But I do know that she's done Star Trek conventions and things, and is open to the idea of coming back if ever was invited and whatever. It's one of the very rare reasons that I would have potentially liked to see that Star Trek Legacy show they were talking about. She's one of the very few characters I'd really be interested to see how they get on, now that they're back in the Alpha Quadrant and grown, and is she a member of Starfleet and what she's doing with her life? And it could have been interesting to find that out. Although I'm sure there are probably, as you said, beta canon books and things that probably would answer that for me. But yeah, it's a weird character to have just basically left behind. She's not mentioned in Prodigy or anything either. And like you said, it's basically not only good as a character on her own, but the way she gives Seven and Neelix and the other characters something to do as well, and the way they interact, I think speaks volumes about their characters. Excuse me. So yeah, massive hit. So then, Vean, it is over to you. The number, please, between 1 and 9.
5.
Oh dear. No, that's actually a good one for you. It is an episode, but it does feed into our theme. Hit or miss for the episode from Voyager of Dreadnought.
Oh, I love that episode. Oh my God. Okay. That is Roxanne Dawson's moment to shine, baby. She gets so many good episodes, and I think it's a credit to the fact that she is such an amazing actress. Unfortunately, her political views are skewed, so we won't get into her as a human being, but amazing actress, and I love that she's playing against herself. I mean, it's just so much fun to watch, and that beautiful Cardassian architecture featured so heavily. Yeah, great episode. Love this one. One of my favorite things is when she comes back to the ship and she's been going back and forth, and it's like, hello, B'Elanna, how was your day? Oh yeah, swell day. Like that sarcasm. Oh yeah. Oh, I love it. I love this episode.
I can't believe you love Cardassian architecture so much. It's just brown and green.
You shut up, Mike.
I was thinking that while I was editing our Nothing Human review that I'm partway through. I was like,
First of all, it's not brown. It's more of a brick red. All those beautiful angles and shadows. Oh, so lovely.
Fair enough. Awesome. Yeah, and I do love that idea that whoever came up with it in the writing, that she reprogrammed the computer to sound like her. So she's arguing with herself. She's brilliant. But enough about me. I'll come to me in a second. Nita, what do you make of this episode? Can you remember it, basically, first?
Yes, I can. Give me 1 sec. Fantastic episode. She shines as an engineer, as a strategist, and as a humanitarian and a human, humanoid, because you see her starting to care about what was it that she did and what it meant, and the dread that she's bringing on to an innocent people. This is definitely a hit for me.
Oh, and I gotta jump in here because she said something that gave me pause. B'Elanna does not get enough credit for being an amazing engineer. I think of the Star Trek that I've seen, because admittedly there's new stuff I haven't seen. I think she's the greatest. I think she's better than Geordi. I think she's better than Chief O'Brien. I think she's better than Scotty. I think they're all a little too, maybe Chief O'Brien less so, but a little too by the book. And I just think she is so brilliant. And it's Chakotay even brings it up in one of the, I think the second or third episode. And Janeway's like, she didn't even finish Starfleet Academy. And he's like, she could teach at Starfleet Academy. And he is
and she can.
Yeah, because she's just so... She's basically a genius, and I just think she does not get enough credit from the fandom for that.
Yeah, I'm with you until you said better than Scotty, and then I'm like, no. But yeah, weirdly enough, I don't think there's been that many really great engineers in the newer stuff. I suppose Jankom Pog has his moments in Prodigy, but he's really more about the percussive maintenance, as he would say, just whacking things till they work. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this episode was a huge hit. I like a lot of season 2 of Voyager actually, and this was around that era of episodes that I remember. Oh, this is such a good run because I loved. We already mentioned I liked Alliances in the past, and I like Prototype, the one with the kind of robot species that are trying to fight their war.
Another great Dawson episode.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of that kind of thing. But yeah, and because for all the reasons you said, the interplay with herself, her own voice, the kind of realization of the consequences of her actions as a Maquis and the innocent people, and as you said, having to come through in a pinch, that great like ticking clock idea of there's a whole species that you are currently at risk and you have to do something, and this thing's out to kill you, and it's going to make things as difficult as possible. And as you said, she comes through and finds a solution. So great engineer all around. Good episode.
When I taped this off of TV, I had this on a VHS with Dreadnought and Death Wish. You want to talk about a freaking double feature, man. Those are two amazing episodes. And watching them back to back was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a great run, Dreadnought, Death Wish, then Life Signs, and then Investigations happens and breaks the run, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
But yeah, that's fair enough. Well, Vean, since we took very little time on a ship, and I feel bad about you having to come up with that, would you like to pick another number, or would you like it to be the number 7?
Oh, it's 7. Yeah, 7. Let's do that.
Oh, how random that you picked the number 7. I don't know why you came up with that. So number 7 is a character, hit or miss for the character of Natima Lang.
Okay, audience, I seriously did not know this. Like, Mike did not give me a heads up on this. I fucking love her. And this goes back to my evidence that all Cardassian women are hot. Look at her. God, what she set the precedent there, and everybody followed suit. So, yeah, Natima's amazing. Absolutely brilliantly played. And this is where we really kind of first start to see, because this was pretty early. I want to say this was season 2. And maybe it was season 1. I don't know. It was early, though. And this is when we began to see that, you know, Cardassia is not a monolith. And I think, to the credit of the writers of Deep Space Nine, they actually, as primarily antagonists, they actually do get more development, I think, in that sense than some of the other main species, like the Vulcans or the Romulans, or, I do think we see, especially when we see civilians, that, hey, it's not all Central Command. It's not all guys in the military, So, and I get the sense that the planet itself and the Union outside of the military is very almost matriarchal. Not quite so, but they even address it with Galora and Ulani in that other episode that men don't have a head for this kind of thing.
Oh yes, the sciences.
So it's almost like they take all their men and go, okay, go play spaceships. We're gonna handle things here, and ship them off and kind of run things. And I just love that. She's a professor and she is unapologetic. She was a journalist during the occupation. She was trying to help the Bajorans even then with getting them medicine and, kind of playing Quark, even though she really did have feelings for him, but using that still in that traditional Cardassian manipulative way. And there's this beautiful scene. Beautiful is the wrong word. But there's a scene in this episode where Natima and Quark kind of, I think she shoots him. It's been a while since I've watched it. But then they kind of like are grabbing at each other, and he's going right for her neck ridges and she's going right for his ears. And the sexual dynamic is so incredible. And the air is almost palpable. You know what I mean? Wonderful character. Love her. Total bullseye.
Behind Holy Grail.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Okay. Well, Nita.
She's a definite hit. I love how sensitive and gentle she is, but she is very, very strong. What she was doing was terrifying. What she was doing, was definitely going to get her and her students killed. To oppose Cardassia like that, she was brave. She was the bravest of all the Cardassians.
Yeah, Cool.
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the things I think massive hit for the character as well. And one of the things I like is that I think this was the first real hint that I got of that there was actually a dissident movement. It wasn't just one or two outliers, and she was kind of central to that. I also love that she gave Quark a bit of development, as well as showing that the Ferengi aren't all regarded as like this icky ugly thing, and this kind of there was an actual relationship there and good chemistry. And I think Mary Crosby played the character really, really well. And yes, does kind of suit the Cardassian makeup in a way that some people don't. I still don't love. I still don't love Seska's, for example. But...
I have to jump in about the makeup here because one, tits out. That's a look. Love it for her. Two, you'll notice they don't all have the chest spoon. Some do, some don't. And I think that's really interesting, again, because so many of the alien species, same haircut, same ears, same eyebrows, same thing. And every time we brought on a Cardassian character, there was a very distinct sculpt for the prosthetics that were done very much to play on the features of the actor. But what I really like about the fact that they do that, so they all have kind of different depth to their eyebrow ridges and their ocular ridges, and how some of them, the neck ridges, they go in only one, some they go in 2 deep, some they go in 3 deep, and some of them have the chest spoon, which we call the chufa, by the way.
Wow, you would know that, wouldn't you?
There's 3. There's the forehead, the chest, and the groin spoon. It's the chula, the chufa, and the chufa. So, but the fact that they're obviously coming from different regions, so they're going to have different genetic features. I just think that's super interesting that they went to that extreme detail.
Yeah, diversity is always good. I do know as well, you're bound to know the answer to this, but I know that we see some female Cardassians where the spoon on the forehead is kind of colored in, and I'm not sure if that was makeup or if it's like a genetic thing. There's
been a lot of back and forth, and my theory is that it's very similar to what human women do with like lipstick. Our lips are naturally pinkish, but we make them even more pink, and I think it's probably similar. We call the makeup pasht that they wear.
Wow.
And so I think they probably do have a little bit of a natural blue pigmentation. And then they accentuate it with a deeper blue on the 3rd scale down, the forehead spoon, and sometimes the chest spoon.
That's what it looks like to me, for sure. Yeah. That it's enhanced with that makeup.
You have to wonder if there's some hormonal aspect as well, because there's an episode where Garak actually has the slightest tint of blue to his. And I'm like, is Garak super horny this episode? Or
Garak's super horny every episode.
Did he put some makeup on it? Or like, what's the deal here?
Yeah, awesome. Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if he put on makeup.
Yeah, no, for sure. But one more thing I do want to add is that, again, and this relates to Garak and Natima, and also Kira Maru, who we were discussing, because they act like, the Cardassians are all so xenophobic. We only date other Cardassians, we only marry other Cardassians, and it's like, well, a lot of them seem to be okay with fucking other species. So I don't know, man.
I mean, especially a Ferengi. That's very different.
Yeah, that couldn't get any more different. Like, I'm not sure if I could go there.
I don't know.
Is gonna look.
Quark has a sexiness to him.
He does. It's a sex appeal.
Yeah.
It's not physical. It's his way about him.
And his eye makeup. That helps too.
Well, then I'll be making notes for later.
Yes, up your eye makeup game, Michael. Really.
Wear eye makeup and big ears. There you go.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, that's cool. Well, so hopefully that was enough of a discussion of your beloved Cardassians for you, Vean, to
thank you.
feel it worthwhile. With that out of the way.
That is so fucking random. Excuse me, that you picked Natima and I mentioned.
I know. I wasn't going to either. It was I initially had picked I can't remember the character's name, but the scientist character from that Next Gen episode that was played by Rachel Garrett's actress.
I mean, there's a lot we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about Gul Osset. We haven't talked about Tribunal, which I think is one of the most unintentionally.
Yes.
That episode cracks me up. And I'm like, I don't think this was meant to be funny, but this episode is hysterical. And I love Archon Makbar. So,
yes. I love it when, they all going, oh yeah, he's gonna die, and then they at the end they're like, okay, we're gonna let him go. Like, oops, we got caught out here.
Then we've concluded our hit or miss slightly longer section for today, and we will dive into the episode Waltz. Now, we will start, as I always have been in these last couple of seasons, with the idea that I always have to add proviso was completely stolen from Delta Flyers. Please don't sue me. I will fully acknowledge it comes from you. But I always do a haiku and a limerick for these episodes, and I have come up with them for Waltz. Whether they're good or not, I will leave that to you to decide. But I'll get it out of the way, and I will start, as Vean often asks me to, with the limerick. So are we ready for my limerick to describe Waltz?
Yes.
Bring it on, bro.
Right. It is as follows. Gul Dukat and his fractured mind trip have Ben Sisko caught in his grip. Though the truth may be raw, he's evil to the core, as shown by his hateful vile slip. I think that's a decent summation of what happens in the episode.
I can jive with it. Yeah.
I feel it. Yeah, I think you're good.
And for my haiku, it's essentially the same thing, but in haiku form. I have said, trapped with a madman, will Sisko stroke his ego or reveal harsh truths? Yeah.
Well, Dukat wanted him to stroke something. I'm not sure it was his ego.
Benjamin, we are good friends.
I feel like it's almost implied with that Freudian use of the pipe to beat his ass.
Oh man, I didn't even see any of this, and now I'm not going to be able to watch this episode. I really did think he was just like, nah, he just wants him to be like, you're so great, because he looks up to him, and he's the kind of guy that took over.
No,
his job.
I think that's also the case. I think it's complicated, but there's a sexual energy that you guys know that meme. He wants to fuck me so bad it makes him look stupid. Do you guys know that?
Yes.
It's like that.
But here's the thing. I think it's a one-way thing. I think that
100%.
Dukat,
100%.
Dukat, I think the actor who plays Dukat has this constant sexual energy that comes out in everything he does.
Yeah, Marc Alaimo has the swagger.
Yes, he's got like this thing. I don't know what's happening here. He gives out this sex vibe. He really does in every performance.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't believe you. I'm going to have to change to my little meme here, which I wasn't.
Yes, you do. You do need to change.
It's fabulous. Oh my God.
Am I out of touch? No, it's the Bajorans who are wrong. Which again sums up this episode pretty well.
All my homies hate Bajorans.
All my homies hate Bajorans.
Yeah, so with my kind of creative corner out of the way, then we'll jump into the next bit that we always do, which is to ask you guys if you can remember your first time watching this episode and what your first experiences of it were, without anything too heavy and spoilery. Nita, I'll come to you again because you're the new guest here. So what did you first make of the episode when you saw it?
Well, I saw it when it first aired, and I was a little bit confused. I said, okay, I know he lost his daughter and he had like a mental break, but he's literally like, at first when he was seeing the Vorta, I was like, is the Vorta really there? Like, I almost believed it was a conversation with you. Yeah. And I was like, is he there? And then I realized, no, he's hallucinating. He isn't well at all. And he really needs to be locked up somewhere, because I don't think this is just going to go away with talk therapy. I think he's in need of some serious psychotic medication, because he's lost his mind. I thought it was really good, though, because you can't be the kind of person that he was and do the things that he did and not break down at some point in your life. And I think that losing Sial wasn't about, that breakdown wasn't about, oh, I lost my daughter and now I'm having a nervous breakdown. I think it was, I lost control of the situation. Yeah. And I'm now having a breakdown over that. And I think that Sial's death triggered that. But that was to come no matter what. Because what he does afterwards, only a psychotic mind can alter his appearance and call on the pirates and do all the things that he did. Like, he has this obsession with the Bajorans that it's unnatural, even among Cardassians cruelest leaders. His is very unnatural. It goes beyond cruel because he believes that he's doing right by them. And when someone is cruel to you and think that they're doing right by you in their cruelty, that's a real psychotic problem. And I think that this really delves into the mind of a war criminal and what it takes to be one.
We will get into it, but yeah, I mean, I remember thinking even when I first saw it, this is very much a representation and a really kind of brutal one of Nazi ideology. The way he starts talking about, look, the Bajorans are the inferior race, and if they just accepted that, and I'm like, oh, this is very like Jews are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like, oh, it's really uncomfortable,
I mean, he believed the propaganda. Yeah, he believed the propaganda to the next level. Like he embodied it. It wasn't a political stance for him. He truly believed they were inferior and that he was doing right by them.
Here's the power, though, of Marc's acting. Marc Alaimo, who plays Dukat, is that in the 90s, when the show originally aired, he was actually swaying fans to his side.
Part of the reason for this episode's existence, I know,
Yeah, so people loved the character so much and were kind of agreeing with him. They're like, oh, we're going to have to be more explicit that he's evil. So, I think that's really interesting, especially considering Garak has become the fan favorite, since, syndication and streaming. But in the 90s, Dukat was everybody's favorite Cardassian, to the point the writers are like, we're going to have to do something about this. So I think that's.
And as you say, I think that's partly Marc Alaimo has kind of a natural swagger and charisma, if I may say so. As
95% Marc Alaimo's natural energy and his
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that viewers always like a villain. There's always a villain that we love to hate. And we want to not side with the villain, but we do kind of want to enjoy their journey a little bit. Like the Kai. We all can't stand this woman, right? She's evil. The actress made you hate her. She was so good at her job that she made you hate her. But she made it. The character was so essential that you needed her there. You needed that villain.
Just to finish my thought, then, like the first time I saw this episode, like I said, I thought it was very bold to do a lot of the things that it did, but I just remember really liking where it went because I was all about the psychological explorations, and having loved Sacrifice of Angels, I was really pleased they were dealing with Dukat's breakdown and not sweeping it under the rug and not making us wait for ages, because this is only 4 or 5 episodes after that, so it wasn't like we had to wait until next season or we had to spend a long time waiting to see. And it didn't, like I said, ignore it, and it didn't sweep it under the rug at first. At first it seems like it might be, where it's like, and I'm told I've made a full recovery, and I was like, oh, that would be the worst possible outcome because we haven't seen any of that. But as I said, then the reveal that, like, no, this is not true at all, basically. I remember thinking, well, this is a really interesting exploration, and I loved the way they played off each other. And I'll get into a little bit more of my thoughts when we get into the episode itself. But yeah, so Vean, you've kind of said a little bit about what your initial thoughts were. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw, because I didn't like Deep Space Nine when it aired. I tried to watch it a couple times over the years, just couldn't get into it. But when it was on Netflix on streaming back in 2012 or so, it was the person I was dating and living with at the time. It was their favorite series. So you'd have it on and I'd walk through the room and I would be like, oh, this shit again. And, but I was picking up little pieces of it here and there. And then we had a really big snowstorm, and my city was not, it was in the South. We were not prepared for snow, so it would just shut things down. So he was just binging Deep Space Nine, and I just sat down, and this happened to be the episode. And I was just so captivated because it was like watching theater in the round. Like, you felt like there's the stage down below you, and you got the 3 sides, and we're all sitting above watching these 2 powerhouse actors basically do a 1-act play in one room. And I was hooked right then. And so I ended up watching the end of the series and had to go back and watch the beginning. and start it from there. But so I started watching the series knowing how it ended, which I think helped me get, slog through some of those early episodes. But this episode, it really got me, and it has always been one of my favorites ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I've told you before, I did the same thing, but I was the exact target audience that they were hoping for, the complete sucker that was like, Worf's on the show, I'll watch it now. As soon as like season 4 came around. So I did see season 4 to 7 and then go back to, although I don't think I did it that way. I probably saw season 4 and then in the off weeks I was watching seasons 1 to 3 to catch up, and then eventually did. But yeah, you're right, 1 and 2 in particular are a slog to get through, sadly. But then you have great episodes, and then even in those seasons we talked about Duet is I think a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
In that early kind of first season, and we mentioned others. It was season 2, by the way, the Profit and Loss episode that you were talking about with Natima Lang. So yes. There are good things in there. So
yeah, Second Skin I think is second season as well.
Yeah, and I love the episode Melora. It's got nothing to do with anything. I just think I really like that episode. That's in season 2 as well. Anyway. So yeah, I'm going to start us off then by giving the behind the scenes for this episode. If you guys want to chime in with anything, again, as always, feel free. But I just have some kind of interesting things, quite a lot actually, more than I realized, but hopefully it'll all be interesting. So of the idea behind doing this episode, writer Ronald D. Moore explains, the intention was to dig down and reveal something in Dukat, both to the audience and the character himself. He really did hate the Bajorans, and he really does wish he'd killed them all. That's the dirty little secret he's tried not to confront head on all these years, and now finally he said it out loud and accepted it about himself. Ira Stephen Bear echoes Moore when he says of this episode, I wanted us to come away with Dukat finally having faced who the heck he is and what he's done, to get him to finally admit that he hates the Bajorans and he wishes to kill them all. And he does. Evil may be an unclear concept in this day and age, but Dukat certainly has done evil things. And since he refuses to admit to them, we then have to simplify things, deconstruct things until we get to the most simplistic level, which is he does evil things, therefore he is evil. Yeah. And as Vean was hinting at before, by the time this episode aired, the character of Gul Dukat had become exceptionally popular among fans of the show, far more so than any of the writers had intended. This was primarily attributed to Marc Alaimo's superbly charismatic performance. His portrayal had presented the audience with a character possessed of a very real pathos and sense of humour, a character with many different aspects composing his psychological makeup. The writers, however, were not entirely happy with how popular Dukat had become. He was supposed to be the villain of the show, and while they were proud to have created such a multi-dimensional villain, they were shocked when they saw fans online actually defending Dukat's behaviour during the occupation. Despite the writers' attempts to make Dukat the epitome of evil in subsequent shows, however, his popularity would remain undiminished until the end of the series. Indeed, in relation to Waltz, some Dukat fans were unhappy with how quickly Sisko denounces him after he tells Sisko about his initial actions as prefect of Bajor. I would say I can't believe anybody could be that blinkered and cult-like, but, you're both in America, so we'll say no more about that.
Yeah. There was actually something Mr. Lady Vean was watching the other day, and he's like, hey, they referenced Deep Space Nine. They were talking about Dukat and the episode where he has the Pa Wraith cult.
Yeah.
And they were comparing it to the Trump and the defense of the Epstein stuff and all that. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much. That's what we got going on here.
Can we get somebody to fight him in the fire caves of Bajor?
It's great. Love that for us. This is so good. Yeah.
Anyway, of the character of Dukat, writer Ronald D. Moore comments, Dukat is the hero of his own story. He definitely thinks he's on the side of the angels, and he doesn't understand why everyone else doesn't see that. Again, if only there was somebody in real life like that. Furthermore, he explains, I don't see anything incompatible in the idea that Dukat wanted to be loved by those he despised. This seems to me like a complex yet very believable dynamic. I think you could find many instances where a person both loves and hates another person for very complex reasons. Dukat's egotistical need to be loved doesn't seem to be in conflict with his need to dominate and rule. In fact, one could argue that it was the Bajorans' refusal to love him in his somewhat twisted view of reality that prompted him to hate them. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, nail on the head. This episode originally ended with Dukat saying to Sisko, you too will learn what it's like to lose a child. But the writers abandoned this idea because it was too specific and it locked them into one path in terms of where to next take the character. They also didn't like the prospect of having to work into every single scene involving Jake that he was living his life under a death threat. Again, I think wise not to have done that.
And if something happened to Jake Sisko, we riot in the streets.
Yeah, pretty much.
100%.
Damar and Weyoun appear in this episode only as hallucinations witnessed by Dukat. Indeed, because this episode proved so popular with fans, the writers considered bringing the chorus back for the next episode involving Dukat, but they ultimately abandoned the concept as they felt the technique carried more dramatic weight by being used only once. And again, very much agree with that choice. Yeah. This episode references an attempt on Dukat's life on Terok Nor within the first month of his administration, where somebody placed a bomb outside his quarters. Fittingly, this might well be the attempt on the life of Kira Maru, as seen in the episode Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night. All full circle, baby. So, there we go. And finally, this episode sets the stage for the showdown between Sisko and Dukat in the series finale, What You Leave Behind. Indeed, after this episode, they wouldn't see each other again until their confrontation in the fire caves in the finale, which I had never realized till reading that and was like, oh yeah, huh. So, yeah. Anything you wanted to add to that, or any thoughts on any of that, ladies?
I think that, yeah. I think that that they didn't kill off Jake or hurt him in any way, I think really mattered to the storyline, because I think that would have incited, think about it, he's the son of the emissary. The Bajorans would have flipped out. Yeah,
there's a lot of that as well, I think, in Dukat, and when we were talking about like why he's kind of desperately, seeking Sisko's approval, and also has this thing with the kind of love-hate thing. I think part of it is also he's the emissary, and it's it's just another title to him, and he's like, well, why don't I get to be the emissary, kind of thing, in the back of his head, like, well, you think you're so important, and he even has that line where he's like, well, imagine what the Bajorans would think if they saw their great emissary as the same food as their horrible enemy Gul Dukat.
I will say my one major criticism of this episode and this arc with Dukat in general is that it is kind of a problematic way of conveying mental illness. That I'm not crazy about, because it is very possible for somebody to be evil without being quote unquote crazy. And I think that for us to have 6 seasons of Dukat being sane, he maybe had some delusions of grandeur, but that's not clinical necessarily. And so for him to have a quote unquote psychotic break with the death of Zial, I can see that triggering a major depressive episode, but for it to go as far as delusions, hallucinations, and for him to just stay crazy, I mean, it's really, there's already such a negative stigma surrounding different kinds of mental illness, people who do have schizophrenia, people who do have these other very serious clinical disorders, and to have it come out of nowhere, kind of associated with only, to be this evil, you have to, by definition, also be crazy, is a really dangerous way of presenting mental illness in media. And I just want to address that.
Yeah, it definitely makes it worse for those suffering.
Yeah.
Because the interesting is that they're less dangerous than the media wants to portray them to be.
Oh, absolutely. And just for the record, people who suffer from schizophrenia and other kind of delusional mental illnesses are something like 90% more likely to be victims of violence than to be perpetrators of violence. And again, how do you pathologize alien psychology as well? Because I don't remember if it's from the main canon or if it's from the beta canon, but it's established that Cardassians have dialectical memory. So, how do you even have a human psychologist or psychiatrist trying to treat an alien species that has that much of a different sort of neuropathology? So you get into these really interesting areas, but I do think it is a problem that they present mental illness in this light.
Yeah, and if I can counterpoint that slightly, I do think, and again, it's all just how you read these things, but I didn't ever read it as he's evil because he's insane. I saw it as he was extremely narcissistic, and when, as Nita said, when he kind of was forced to lose for the first time, lose the station, lose his daughter, lose whatever else power he had, it broke him completely, and his barriers that he had that were kind of keeping the evil hidden, as it were, broke down. So it's not that he's evil because he's insane. It's that the insanity presented the evil to everyone for the first time because he wasn't able to hide it anymore, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it anyway. I didn't ever think of it as, oh, he's mad, so he's evil.
Oh, I totally get that. I'm just saying that it's dangerous territory to wade into, because we also see it in present day when people talk about, well, again, Donald Trump. They try and rationalize his evil by making it something that's pathological, that he must surely have this disorder. He must surely have this mental illness. He must surely, and it's like, no, sometimes people are evil and they're just evil.
Yeah, you know? Which I think this episode does kind of get to at the end. That's basically what it's saying, is that, like, you know, he's just evil. You know, there's no need to feel sorry for him or to feel like anything other than he's just a bad dude. You know, but yeah. But I mean, it would have been a much less interesting episode, I think, without that element of it. And so I see the writers being torn between it. But you are right in that it can certainly be viewed that way, and that is a problem. But yeah, like I said, I think it is almost Shakespearean, though. It's very much, you know, haunted by the ghosts of the people you've killed or you've failed in that way. And I kind of saw that episode, I think, even when I first saw it, as very, like you said, it is basically a Shakespeare play, isn't it? Except
it really is. It really is, yeah.
With these, like, you know, fictional aliens and whatever in place of, you know, ancient England and kings and queens and whatever else. But it's the same kind of ultimate idea. So, yeah. Speaking of which, we'll deal with the various sections. We always break it down into sections, and we'll start with the writing. So again, I have a tiny bit here. I've already mentioned the episode was written by Ronald D. Moore, which is worth noting. Originally, it was to be structured similar to the third season episode Distant Voices, with the whole regular crew appearing as different aspects of Dukat's personality. According to Moore, Waltz began life as a story that he called Dukat's Head around the office. The notion was for Sisko to go visit Dukat in a mental hospital, and while he was trying to engage the catatonic Cardassian in conversation, we'd push in on Dukat's face and then go inside his head and show us the fantasy life he was living. The story would have gone into the past, dealt with his Bajoran mistress, his rise to power, his treatment of the Bajorans, and even the fantasy life he was trying to construct for himself on Terok Nor with Kira as his wife and himself as beloved leader of Cardassia and Bajor. We struggled with the storyline for quite a while, but never found a way to make it compelling. Eventually, we noticed that the scenes we liked the best were the ones in the hospital room between Sisko and Dukat, and we decided to toss out everything but that. However, some of the character dynamics we had envisioned for the fantasy sequences eventually were realized in the phantom images of Weyoun, Damar, and Kira as they appeared in Dukat's hallucinations. Yeah, I do think, again, they came up with the best version of that in the end, so can't really disagree with the decision there. Do you guys think that would have been better or worse, maybe?
I don't know. I think that it could have gone either way with that. I'm not sure. I think that it really depends on how they brought that storyline to that point. Yeah. I think a lot of times it's about how they represent and how they write the stories, the dialogue, how it's going to be received by fans.
Yeah, fair enough. That's cool. So dealing with the writing, then there's a lot to deal with, and I don't want to sort of say something that would step on anybody's toes, so I'm going to basically throw it open. Vean, I'll ask you first of all. Is there anything you wanted to particularly shout out about the writing that you think is strong, that really works, or anything you think doesn't work that you haven't already mentioned that's in the writing here?
I think the writing is fabulous. I think Ronald D. Moore is one of the strongest writers on Deep Space Nine.
He did go on to make the critically acclaimed Battlestar Galactica remake, I believe. So.
Oh, did he? Oh,
I think so. Yeah,
it's interesting because outside of Star Trek, I don't really like sci-fi, so I don't know a lot about it outside of Star Trek. But no, this is one where I think, because we've talked about, you know, problematic writing with things like duet and maneuvers and how a good performance can save bad writing. And I think we kind of see the reverse in this episode, where we have these really good writing, really tight, really organic, naturalistic, while still being sort of this melodramatic Shakespeare life and death kind of thing. And so you have that, and then you have these really extremely good performances, and then you have these really low lows, and you're like, was that bad writing, bad directing, or bad acting? I can't even tell. So I think in this case, it was not bad writing. I think it was either bad acting or a combination of bad acting and bad directing. René is, we'll get into that with the directing. So I think overall the script for this was really well paced. I think the parts on the Defiant, I mean, I know they're necessary, but I think they kind of take you out of the moment, but they're necessary. So we allow for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, though. I could have done with less of it, and I do think we didn't really need as much. Although the only thing I really like in those scenes is Bashir randomly standing up to Worf, which I was like, I forgot about that part of the episode.
Oh my God, Mike, I was just going to say how that is, oh God, Julian, what is wrong with you? The needs of the mini, Julian, hello.
It fits kind of both of their characters, though, that T would be like, that Bashir would be the kind of pompous, I'm the one in the right here kind of guy, and Worf would be like,
such a little bitch.
Leave the bitch.
Oh my God.
I would have thought you'd have loved somebody standing up to Worf, to be honest.
Actually, no, I think Worf was right in this case.
No, fair enough. But yeah, at least there was a little bit of interest in that scene, but the rest of it just seemed like a lot of when we cut away from Dukat and Sisko, there's just a lot less interest, really, for me.
I mean, but it's necessary because you can't.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, if you're watching live theater, it's one thing, but for a 45-minute television show, I think you have to break that intensity now and then, and so I think those scenes were necessary.
Maybe, but I also found it really, I don't know why, but I just found it really cheap when they kept on doing that mislead of, we've picked up a signal. Oh, we're beaming them. Oh, it's not them. I'm like, come on. It's the cheapest possible. And it obviously wasn't going to be. It's not like a 12-minute episode or whatever, so you're not going to have found them by now. So again, it just felt like we're wasting time here. We didn't need this. We really needed... For me, we could have done with one scene on the station at the start, like, you've got a few hours to find them, and that's it. And then a scene of them actually finding them at the end, like, nick of time then. And that's really all we needed from that, except, keep cutting back. I was just like, oh, man, get back to the planet. I want to see what's going on. But again, maybe that was just me.
I agree with V. You need a little bit of a break from that planet because those scenes were intense. So even though I felt the same way, I'm like, I want to go back to see what's going on. I understood why they needed to give the viewers a break.
Yeah, fair enough. And so the kind of the thing that I wanted to mention first of all is the kind of chorus, as I said, in Dukat's head, because I really do love, as much as it, like I said, it might be a kind of terrible representation. I really do love the way that it works, and I especially love the way all three are played. I think, 2 out of 3 more so, but I do love.
Which one don't you like, Mike? Go for it.
I think we know where I'm going with that.
I want to hear you say it, Mike.
Oh, say it.
I don't especially love Casey Biggs at the episode, but
Say the line, Bart. Say the line.
Don't have a cow. But no, I mean, he is fine, but at that first scene, I just thought, I don't know, again, it's the direction more than him, but he just looks really uncomfortable, craning his neck out in terrible
God, I could
position.
not disagree with you more. Can we talk about the acting now? I'm ready.
Well, we can move on to that. I mean, we'll mix it up. Why not? We've got bits and pieces. So, yeah, the acting's kind of linked to the writing in a lot of big ways. So go ahead. What did you want to say?
Okay, you're wrong, and here's why. So
I love how you said that. You just came right out and said it.
Casey's the best actor in this episode, in particular. In that
absolutely not.
Yes, he is, and I'm going to explain it to you, like you're a child. So
I still won't agree.
You have Damar, Weyoun, and Kira. This chorus you keep referencing, but they're not playing them as Damar and Weyoun and Kira. They're playing them as different representations of things for Dukat, and so
exactly.
They're taking and I think Casey, more than the other two, really took that and ran with it and said, this isn't Damar. This is Dukat's feelings of self-righteousness. These are his feelings of xenophobia. This is his narcissism. These are all these big things that, make Dukat part of who he is. And so he takes it and he takes Damar and goes, so this is not real Damar. This is a Damar who is subservient to Dukat and simpering and praising him, and he represents
He's like that anyway, though.
No, he isn't. That's the thing,
He
Mike.
really is.
He's not. I will tell you, because you said, he looks uncomfortable. He is literally hunching himself down to make himself physically lower than Dukat. He doesn't do that in other scenes. he changes the pitch of his voice in this scene where his voice is much more high pitched than he normally does, and he speaks like this, and it's softer. And because Casey does have a very a deep timbre to his voice, he has a certain quality, which I enjoy. And in this, and he's talking to him. Oh, of course you do. Oh, yes, and of course you know he secretly admires you, and he's hunched over, and he's so submissive to him. It's so beautiful to watch.
See,
he is so fabulous in that scene.
I think that, and I'm a big Sisko fan. I'm a huge Sisko fan. I think he's, all that, and can steal my heart anytime. But Casey Biggs,
careful.
Dukat was amazing. Dukat was amazing in this episode. The actor was phenomenal. He had to interact with people who weren't there. He had to, and they weren't behaving like we said. The Kira wasn't being Kira, no. The Vorta wasn't being the Vorta. They were being parts of his emotions, and he had to draw from that, and he had to feel that, and he really was phenomenal in this episode. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor to begin with.
Yeah.
But he truly outdid himself. It was almost like watching a theater play.
Yeah.
It almost was.
That's always what I say about this episode. I'm like, this is like watching a one-act play live.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, to go back to the kind of what we were talking about with the chorus, I personally was more impressed with Jeffrey Combs' performance, because he gets to really go not so much over the top in the kind of way that you're terribly overacting, but he gets to really be the guy that's needling him and the kind of the evil clown, I guess, inside of Dukat's
when
psyche.
he says, Dr. Cox would be so proud. I love the delivery of that line.
Oh, he was amazing.
So fabulous. He is such a talented actor. I just wish he wasn't an asshole. But he is.
We can apply that to so much of the Star Trek.
Oh, I know. It's
no, but I mean that line you said, but also I really love, because it's such a pivotal line, but it's also delivered really well. Where he's like, "What would they say? What would Sisko say if he could see you crying yourself to sleep at night like a little girl?"
Oh no, Jeff is also fabulous. I just think Casey was better in this episode. I do. Yeah.
I also do like Nana, but she's basically just doing.
Oh my God, Mike! What am I gonna do with you? She is so fucking bad. She's so bad. Oh my God, the overacting and the fake laugh and the.
You get away with the overacting, don't you? Because that's what he's seeing.
It's distracting. When she is, oh God, what's the line when she's like, "We didn't want peace, we wanted to destroy you," and just flings herself. It's so bad. It's so bad, especially compared to these other powerhouse performers next to her. It is so awful. It's so awful.
She usually does such a good job too, but she did kind of overdo it.
Yeah,
in this episode,
I think I see it because it is Dukat's exaggerated view. That is where you can get away with doing that.
And she does
maybe that's the reason.
The moments she gets away with it is like the moments where Sisko's like, "Let's pretend the Major's not even here," and she's not saying anything, and she kind of raises her finger to it. And again, it's always when Nana uses those big, beautiful, expressive eyes. When she uses her eyes, she's great. But God, she overacts 90% of the time.
I also did think she was great in the setting up the stakes at the start, though, where she's like, "Worf, there's so many people on this convoy. You have exactly this many hours and not a second more."
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
she's good as a commander. I agree.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at there. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, I can't fault Marc Alaimo's performance, even though he goes to so many different places, and there are times that you really hate him and you really hate what he's saying and doing, but that's not the actor, so I can't really say that's bad performance, because that's what you're supposed to feel. But if I may be slightly critical of Avery Brooks for 1 second.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I was trying to be diplomatic, because I know Nita likes him, but
I love him.
I love him.
I will come to England and beat you.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Oh dear.
No, go ahead.
It's just one scene and one line. He's really good in most of the episode, and I mean like exceptionally good in like 80-90% of the episode. But when he kind of has been beaten up, and when he just, and again, it's maybe the direction, because again, maybe the director should have been like tone it down a bit. But it's when he's like, "What the hell do you want from me?" I'm like, dude.
Yeah, sometimes when he gets
it lower.
passionate like that, it's like, tone it down, bro. It wasn't that serious.
Yeah,
like I will admit that you know what it is. Theater actors are a different breed, and they do things so differently because they're trying to project to a different type of audience, a different setting visually. And they tend to be more forceful with their acting, right? But when you have a television or movie actor, it's more subtle, I feel like there's a difference between a theater actor or someone who trained in the theater versus someone who is a movie or TV actor.
See, my problem with that is that 90% of this cast in this episode are theater actors, and Avery just makes really weird acting choices, not just in this episode, just through the series. There are moments where he is incredible, and there's moments where I'm going, why did you say that like that? And I have so much respect for him and what he had to go through as, you know, I'm saying this as a white woman, you know, and but just knowing the history of the character and what Avery as an actor had to go through to get the role and to maintain the role, and how they made him a commander because he couldn't be a captain and scare the white on. And I'm like, I can only imagine what that's like. So I don't like to be too critical of him, but boy, there are moments where I question his choices.
And I'm kind of similar, but I also don't feel like I'm comfortable outright criticizing, because there are also equally moments. I mean, to shout out a couple of examples, episodes like Far Beyond the Stars or Rocks and Shoals, where I think he doesn't put a foot wrong and it actually suits that performance. And again, I see what he was going
I think
for.
Which is necessary in some areas, and sometimes it's not as necessary. But again, when you see when you have theater actors, they're so projective. They're so impactful and powerful because they're trying to be seen by people who are sitting all the way in the back. They're trying to project those feelings and emotions. So they're more poignant and more, and it's a lot different. It's, as someone who sings, I understand singing in a theater environment versus a smaller venue can be very different, because you don't need to project as much in one area that you do in another area, and the venue that you're in really does change. And I think that it's similar to acting, where they're so accustomed to it that when they get into that moment and into that character and into those feelings, it kind of gets away.
But it's
and that's where you get that overacting kind of moment.
But it's your responsibility as the performer to be able to modulate that. So if you are, because Casey and Jeff and Mark and René and all these other actors on the show, they are traditional Shakespeare trained stage actors.
And Armin, for that matter, actually, yeah.
What?
And Armin as well, for that
matter. And Armin, yes. Oh, yeah, of course, Armin. God, how could I forget? So if you can't make the jump from one to the other, stick with the stage. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's your responsibility as the performer to be able to play for a camera versus playing for an audience of 300 or 3,000. And that's kind of my take on that, because as you're saying, and I've said this in other episodes as well, is that when you're playing for a camera, the camera, it's one viewpoint and it is one. I mean, that's it. Because when you're in an audience, you're playing to 300 different perspectives. When you're playing to a camera, you are playing to one perspective. And, you know, if you're not capable of tailoring your performance to that genre, just stick to the stage, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And to be clear, because we're getting bogged down in this, it is literally just that one thing that bothered me from Avery Brooks. I think he's incredible for most of the episode, like on par with Marc Alaimo. And I think if he wasn't a good actor, it wouldn't be as good of an episode with those two playing off each other so strongly. I love all the stuff with the kind of the cat and mouse game that's going on with the Dukat saying that he sent the distress signal, and Sisko knowing he's lying, and then hiding that he's repaired it, etc., etc.
Yeah, see, that's exactly it. When Avery Brooks or Sisko replies, "That's all I wanted to know." It's like perfect, nailed it, bam. You got it. And then but then there's other times where he just goes off half-cocked, and I was again, like I have been watching this episode with Mr. Lady Vean, who's never seen it, and when it's over, I'm like, "What'd you think?" And he's like, "Hey, is it me or was like Avery Brooks like kind of hamming it up?" I'm like, "Oh, he kind of was at times," So it's just interesting to hear.
What I'm thinking, maybe he did that because the episode didn't center in him, and as an actor, he felt like he wanted to stand out. You think maybe?
Yeah, I think that could be it. And also, you got to think about like the energy on the set too, because I mean, you have again these two people going to these Shakespearean levels and making it sound real. They're bringing it from a place that's internal. So, maybe that is just how Avery himself is. So you have to consider a lot of different things, but I do think he makes choices I would not have made as an actor.
And as you say, I think
maybe that's the best way to put it.
I do think it is potentially a personal thing, though, as you said, because he's dealing with this guy who's facing an actual, full-on abusive fascist guy, and he might have been, like you said, tapping into that real experiences with that, and then would be how he would naturally react, and it's kind of not super fair to criticize that. And again, there are moments the thing that bothered me, that one scene, I get why he would be desperate in that situation. He had the crap kicked out of him, he was violently ill at that point, he knew that there was no real appeasing Dukat. So it was kind of a desperate screech of like, "Oh, what do you want?" But again, I wouldn't necessarily have played it in exactly that way. And again, there are other ones I love. I won't mention because it's actually my favorite line that we'll get to. The way he kind of sticks the button on a great moment, and I think it really works for me. Which hopefully you won't disagree with, but we'll see, I guess. But so that covers anyway. We've talked about the writing and the acting. I should mention that this episode is directed by René Auberjonois, who you will all probably know because he plays Odo in the series. This is the 8th episode directed by René, and of this episode, he says it was a stage piece and it dealt with acting all the time. The challenging part was to keep it visually interesting. He also commented, "Right now, I'm most proud of Waltz. If you talk to me after each episode I direct, I'll probably say to you that's my favorite, the best I've done, the most well-directed. But just the experience of working with Avery and Marc on Waltz was wonderful. It was a challenge to do what was basically a 2-character show. On the one hand, it was simple, because I didn't have a lot of special effects with which to deal. We don't have 100 extras. But it was a challenge of another kind to make 2 people talking exciting television." Yeah, I kind of agree with that, actually. I can see why that would be, but I think, again, when you've got 2 really good, compelling actors, that kind of does a bulk of the work for you. So direction-wise, I can't really say that I had much that I hugely picked up on, because, as I said, it's more of kind of, to me, a stage piece. And the fact that it didn't seem boring and it didn't seem like the camera was just planted in one place, I think is credit to René, obviously. And, there are a couple of moments where you have to be a bit more dynamic, but other than that, I didn't really notice a whole lot.
I'm going to dissent. I think the directing was visibly bad. I think that when you have this kind of script that is so tightly written with 2 actors who have this rapport and have this dynamism, just let them do their fucking job, because that's going to do all the heavy lifting. And so when you start inserting like certain postures, like Kira laying on the rock, and with Damar where he had his foot on the rock, and it was so unnatural and it looked like the fire was cooking his balls. And there were just the way certain lines were delivered where you can tell it was the director going, "I don't like that, do it this way." And I just think René should not direct. I can't think of an episode of his I've seen that I was like, that was well directed. I think there were certain camera angles that I very much would have done differently. I don't like his directing. I just don't.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree on that. You're coming off very critical today. I'm sorry.
Well, that's funny because I love this episode so much. It's one of my favorites, but I don't think I think you can love something and still talk about, the flaws. And I think if I was just praising it endlessly, that would get boring.
Yeah, although I do actually have a couple of things I found that I wanted to say about the direction. First of all, I thought it was quite clever, the way that it uses the visual of the offline online on the Starfleet distress signal thing. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and it doesn't spell it out for you, which I think weaker scripts and directors would feel the need to do, and it's trusting the audience can see what's going on there, which I was like, oh, okay, I appreciate that. And it's not really the direction's fault or anything else, but I have to say it because it bugged me no end. This episode I was watching on DVD because it's the only way physically I can watch it, and it desperately needs an HD remaster. It just looks too friggin' dark and blurry to see when they're on the planet most of the time, and it looks so bad because it's in like ST.
I also watched it on DVD, and I didn't have a problem with that, but the aspect ratio for the new televisions I think was a problem, but.
Maybe, but yeah, I just found it like those scenes are so compelling on the planet, and yet I'm squinting to see them for a lot of it. And it's not because that was the way it's filmed. I know it wasn't. It would probably have been filmed perfectly well. It's just in standard definition, it's too weak. I'm not used to that nowadays, which is a very first world problem to have. Like, I'm used to such clarity, damn it. But I do think, I think we desperately need an HD remaster of DS9 and Voyager anyway. I think it's shocking that we don't have one.
Hope springs eternal, Mike.
It's never going to happen. I'm well aware it's never going to happen, but I do think it's disgusting that we have all the other series and not that. Although it's also true that bizarrely we have Strange New Worlds in 4K and none of the other shows. So clearly it's still carrying on. And you can get a 4K of Section 31 if you want to see dog shit up really close and see how it sparkles.
I'm good. I think I'll pass on that.
But anyway, yeah, that's neither here nor there. It's just, I didn't really have much else to add to that, and I don't want to go on for too long. I love a lot of this episode. Like I said, I love the Dukat and Sisko interplay, and when it's something I really love, I don't really have a lot to say because I'm not hypercritical. Except, So, what about you, Nita? Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I don't know really much about directing, so I try not to make too much of a comment on that. I enjoyed the episode a lot. So, does directing have something to do with that? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know enough about it to comment on that. But I'll leave that at that. I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a fantastic insight on Dukat for sure.
Yeah. And just before I go on to the next section, I have to say, I think, again, without naming any names, I kind of was watching it this time and was very aware of how similar Dukat is to real-world figures that might be famous in the way that he's justifying everything right up to and including genocide. And the way he believes that, like, it's not malevolence, it's justice that they kill two people and then I round up and kill two of theirs. And it's just kind of like, it's sick, but he really does believe that, like, I was so fair to them and I improved things, and it's like, but you're still occupying their planet. And just an awful lot of scenes like that of him, like, even when he's like the typical abuser's motto to Sisko when he's like, you brought it on yourself, Benjamin. I'm like,
the other interesting aspect of that is that the disrespect from somebody who's demanding respect, because he constantly refers to him as Benjamin, and it's such a demeaning way. And you'll notice we do this as well. We don't talk when we talk about Trump, we call him Trump. When we talk about Biden, we call him Biden or Obama. When we talk about Kamala Harris, everybody, Kamala, Hillary. So when we want to kind of diminish and demean, it's like
agreed.
Take somebody on a first name basis, and so you have Dukat really wanting this approval from Sisko, and yet not giving him the respect, of going, and I know part of it's him wanting them to be friends, and there's some aspect.
I think he believes they are. That's the thing. He's so deluded that he's like, we are old friends, and Sisko has to correct him that, like, no, we're not, dude.
But even when he does, it's like he insists on using this very personal frame of reference, and you get to that scene where Sisko is criticizing his soup. And
needs more salt.
and the pepper, and then of course Sisko has a background in culinary because of his father, which is kind of relevant, but You know, Dukat's like,
Even
you're not
then,
the
Dukat won't
only, you're not the
acknowledge,
only
yeah.
one who knew how to cook. You're not the only one who knows how to do this stuff. Like, I can do stuff too, damn it. You know, this sort
That's
of
what I mean, though, about
petulance,
it's a great portrayal of a narcissist, because it's like you're facing a guy who's literally trained by like a star awarded chef, and you're
Yeah.
like, I can cook too, buddy.
and you can just see, and this again is when Marc is so brilliant. You get just the clinch of his jaw when he's, you know, biting back, wanting to be like, you know, say something. And this goes back to, you know, Nita's point that, you know, of playing to a camera versus playing to an audience, is that you're able to get these little tiny micro things. And that was a great reference there. And also when Sisko's like, you want to do this? You want to do this right now? And Marc, he doesn't even give a full response. It's just that, like, it's not even, it's such a minor affirmative, but it's there. And it's because the camera can pick it up, and he allows the camera to do that work. Just so wonderful.
Awesome. I'll move us on then, because I don't want to be here too much longer, and I think we've covered everything I wanted to say in my notes anyway. So I'll move on to the next thing, which would be the audience response, the part of the episode that I call subspace communications.
Incoming transmission.
Once again, I don't have that much or not as much as I expected for this episode, and I don't know if it's just because people didn't want to wade into it in this day and age, or people didn't feel the need to express because everybody must like the episode, or so they think, or whatever it may be. But I do have a little tiny bit. Again, I would have preferred more. If you are listening, by the way, and you ever see my prompts for social media responses to these episodes, please do tell me your thoughts. I'm always interested to see what other people think, and sometimes it gets quite fascinating. I was amazed when Maneuvers, for example, was incredibly unpopular with the audience, even though the three of us reviewing it really liked it. So yeah, anyway, so I will start with Facebook groups, and Star Trek Family is the first one. Alana Whitestar says, I rate Waltz as a 5 out of 5. Excellent writing and acting by Marc Alaimo and Avery Brooks, and excellent directing by René Auberjonois. I felt that Dukat really did reveal his true feelings for the Bajorans. It didn't change how I saw him. It vindicated my view of him as pure evil. Elaine Fisher Manning says, I also enjoyed Waltz. I'm not sure if Dukat was pure evil or not. I think he did go insane after the death of his daughter, Zial. If he had been pure evil, I don't think he'd have notified DS9 where to find Sisko. Bit apologetic, but okay. Our friend Thomas Labanik, Tommy, just simply says 4 out of 5. Doesn't really elaborate. Frank Fury 74 on Discord says 4 out of 5. Good insight, definitely. Good episode, definitely insight into Dukat. And that's literally all I've got, sadly, because not many people replied, like I said. So.
I am really surprised you didn't get more response.
I thought I would. Yeah, thought I would, but no. So, yeah.
Can I say one more thing, Mike? Because I know I harp on Nana a lot. I do want to her credit, she has the best line of the series, and she nails the delivery. It's not in this episode, but I think it's relevant because it's related, where she gives Damar the wake-up call, where they killed all these people, and who gives those kinds of orders? And her, Damar, who gives those kinds of orders? Nana nails that line. And it is the most important line of the series. And so,
yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. That was the most poignant moment to teach them to see their own behavior. Because at that point, he was criticizing what they had done to the Bajorans. Because it was being done to them. You know, it's a bad thing. But when we did it to the Bajorans, it was okay. And she was pointing this out.
Yeah,
it's not relevant to this episode, but my favorite bit of Nana visitor acting is in, I can't even remember the episode exactly, but it's during that arc when the station's been taken over, and that one Bajoran basically kills himself in front of her.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it's harrowing enough, but then Nana's kind of like, when she's talking to Odo, Kira, talking to Odo, and just says, we used to have a saying in the Resistance, if you're not fighting them, you're helping them. What am I doing? I even write reports for the murderers that run this station. I'm like, wow, that's surprisingly restrained and pretty good. I like that. But again, not relevant at all to this episode.
Well, I just know I've been super critical all through this Cardassian Bajoran series, so I just wanted to include that.
You've been critical of everyone and everything, Vean. If we'd be here all day if we wanted you to say something positive about all the people you've criticized.
Okay, fine.
Oh, Burn. I'm sorry. You're just honest. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it's good to have that clarity and that honesty, because it's not always roses, and dandelions. Sometimes it's the harsh reality that something just didn't translate well.
Yeah. Now, Vean knows I appreciate her often brutal honesty. So anyway, speaking of which, we're going to give our thoughts now. We're going to conclude and round up with our favorite things and then our conclusions and score. So we'll start with our favorite character, moment, and line in the episode. Nita, I'm going to come to you first as the guest. Do you have a favorite character, moment, and line that you wanted to shout out?
I really loved in this particular episode when the Vorta Weyoon tells him, "Oh, you're gonna be crying like a baby." I loved when he was taunting him and teasing him, but it's his own mind taunting him and teasing him, not the actual Vorta. I think that interaction was so clever, because when I first saw that, I said, well, how did they find him, and why are they hiding? Why are they not just arresting them, Sisko, and rescuing them? Like, I really thought he was there, and then it's as the episode progressed that you realize, oh, this is his mind. But he delivers that line in such a bully kind of way. I absolutely love the way he bullied Dukat, and Dukat, you could see his expression feeling that.
Yeah, for sure. So that's character. Well, sorry, that's moment and line. So, do you have a favorite character that you wanted to shout out?
I think that in this episode, Dukat really outshined himself. I do not think that he's my favorite because he's vindicated.
No. That doesn't mean you're right.
Person. Yeah. He is evil, but he delivered an amazing performance in this episode.
Your beloved Sisko is crying in the corner.
I know, but I'll give him a hug later and I'll snuggle.
I bet you will. Anyway, Vean, over to you. Do you have a favorite character, moment, and line? You know what to expect by now for the episode.
Yeah, this one's really hard because it's like, is my favorite the best scene, or is my favorite the one? Well, let's just say, is my favorite the horniest scene? That's a toss-up. So
control yourself, woman.
I just can't help it. I do think overall, I know you're gonna hate me for this, Mike. I do think Casey gives the best performance. It's small. It's a small performance, but I think, the problem is he is such a gifted actor, and he doesn't do stuff that scares him anymore, but he used to. And when he did, he was an amazing actor. But now he's gotten complacent. Oh,
acting-wise, you mean? Okay. Right.
Yes, acting-wise. Yeah, funny man. Oh, I get it, Mike. So I think Marc does kind of steal the episode overall, but I think as an individual performance, as a microcosm of what acting is at its core, I do think Casey gives the best performance. And I also want to peg him in this episode. Man, that ass.
So yeah, moment and line then in that.
Okay, so moment and line. Okay. I like the Bajorans understand a clenched fist, not an open hand. I think that's so fucked up. And I think, again, that speaks to Dukat's real perception of them at the end of the day. Of course, that line doesn't come from him; it comes from Damar. But this is Damar's.
It does, because it's all
exactly. And so it really is Dukat's perception. It's just coming through a different character, kind of like the prophets are used different characters that way as well. So I like that. I like all of Marc's lines. They're just amazing. But I think my absolute favorite is when he's Damar and Dukat are talking about Sisko, and in your heart he secretly admires you. I really love that line. I just think that it's so sick. It's so sick, and it just really speaks to what Dukat's motives are.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna give my favorite things then. My favorite character was between Sisko and Dukat. But I leaned towards Sisko by default because I really was just aware of not wanting to align with Dukat's kind of views in this episode. Although performance-wise, maybe it would have been Marc over Avery, but character-wise, I think I have to go with Sisko. And I did like him in this episode. I have to say, I'm not just picking him for no reason. So that's why I'd go with that. My favorite scene was the whole big final scene between Dukat and Sisko after the beating and ending with my favorite quote, which I think is the obvious nadir of the episode. And yeah, my favorite line is, yes, that's right, isn't it? I knew it. I've always known it. I should have killed every last one of them. I should have turned their planet into a graveyard, the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. I should have killed them all. And Sisko's response, and that is why you're not an evil man. That was the line I was referring to earlier. I think Avery Brooks nails the delivery of that with the kind of biting sarcasm towards, like, dude, you insane. Like, in the worst way, you
exactly.
evil. Yeah. But, yeah. So then we'll give our conclusion and our score out of 5 stars or Starfleet Deltas or whatever we're using. Nita, again, I'll come to you. Are you happy to give your conclusion first?
Give me 1 second.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we can go to you, Vean, if you would like to give your conclusion and score first. Give Nita time to recover.
Yeah, this is, despite the criticisms I've had, this is a 5 out of 5 for me. This
Wow.
is Star Trek doing what Star Trek really does best in addressing these big issues. We're talking about genocide. We're talking about the nature of evil. We're talking about the nature of mental illness. We're talking about, the needs of the many versus the needs of the one. There's so many tropes and big ideas, and you're using these analogies. You're using these alien species to kind of toy with it. And unlike, Voyager, which often has open-ended endings, this has a very clear-cut good and evil. And I just think it's absolutely brilliantly written. I think it's some of the best writing on Deep Space Nine, and certainly some of the best acting. And despite my big criticism being the directing, it's still a 5 out of 5 for me.
Okay, well, fair enough then. It can't be that bad then after all, everyone. So let's not go leaving critical messages on her social medias after all. I will delete the one that I've already written. So, Nita, did you... She knows I'm kidding. Nita, did you want to give your conclusion and score now?
Yes, I think that this, I'm with V. It's a 5 out of 5. It was an excellent episode. It really addressed so many different things about the occupation of Bajor, the behavior of the Cardassians, Dukat's position, and participation in this, and his narcissistic tendencies. Like, it's just so high, because the only reason I think that he wants this connection with Sisko is because Sisko is the commander of Deep Space Nine, where he wants to be the commander, and he wants to call it Terrak Nor, and he wants to have this power that he once had that now is being taken from him. And he knows he's not getting it from the founders or Dominion. This was a bad idea of aligning themselves with them. And this episode just sort of just explodes all these emotions and really just delves deep on real issues, because this episode was poignant then, and it is still today. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or what that says about us as human beings and our lack of growth. But it really, truly, truly is an excellent episode that really dives into so many aspects of humanity. It's one of those episodes that was not just good, but necessary.
Absolutely. And feeding off what both of you said there, actually, I should have mentioned, I really love the last scene in this episode. It's always stuck in my mind when Sisko says, you spend enough time and you think everything's a shade of grey, but then after a bit of time with Dukat, you realize there is such a thing as pure evil. And Dak's asking, well, to realize it is one thing, what are you going to do about it? And his response that, well, I'm not going to hand over Bajor. I fear no evil. And I think it's an interesting mission statement to be like, look, there's evil and it's scary, but we can also stand up, and be counted, I think, in that way as well, which is pretty cool at the end of the day. And again, I normally don't like this kind of black and white thinking, but I think in the case of Dukat, I think he proved, he is just evil, and it's right to denounce, Nazis, basically, as much as that's probably a controversial view to some people, sadly, in this day and age. But yeah, anyway, moving to my conclusion, I said, from the very first time I saw this episode, even when I was much younger, I knew it was an all-timer. It hit me like a brick then, and it still does now. It's one of those brilliant examples in media, and especially in Star Trek, of how two people simply having a conversation can become the most powerful, affecting, and compelling thing on screen. Marc Alaimo deserves a mountain of praise. He absolutely runs away with the MVP slot here. His unreserved, unrestrained, unafraid performance is magnetic, effortlessly moving through insane delusion, affable banter, narcissistic defensiveness, and finally something truly sinister and terrifying. I don't come out of it liking the character, but I love the performance. Avery Brooks is nearly as strong, keeping pace with his co-star and playing brilliantly off him. There's one moment that came off pitched a bit high for me, just on the edge of hammy, as I said, but overall he's excellent, and the chemistry between the two is electric. The chorus of Dukat's inner demons and angels is handled just right. It never shies away from the inherent absurdity of the concept, but pushes through it to reveal something raw and revealing in the writing. I do have a few nitpicks. The Defiant subplot isn't strictly necessary, but I understand the need to keep the regulars involved, add some time pressure, and deliver that surprisingly great little moment of Bashir standing up to Worf. Also, the episode looks a little too dark and grubby visually, though that might be more to do with watching a basic DVD, as I've said. Still, these are minor quibbles. It's an episode that stayed with me since that first viewing. I almost didn't need to rewatch it. It's so deeply rooted in my mind that I remembered nearly every beat, and to stand out like that in a franchise of nearly 1,000 episodes, well, that speaks volumes. And I also gave it 5 out of 5. Which means I don't have much complex maths to do, and it means that the final score for this episode comes to, for the first time in this series, a perfect 5 out of 5. So, a perfect episode. We've decided. So again, even though there are criticisms and nitpicks, perfect episode, can't be disputed. We've said it. It is officially on the record. So yeah,
that's right.
And that was one little thing that I was going to mention, but this is more of a dig at a previous episode. I was going to mention because Vean, you were on our review of Duet. I was going to note that Armin Zimmerman doesn't appear in this episode, and it means that you don't have to have a horrible line that distracts like in Duet when he kind of slightly ruins that powerful moment.
Thank God.
I feel bad for the actor not getting his residual check or whatever that week, but thank goodness they didn't feel the need to shoehorn in a jokey quark line somewhere. So. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, and what an intense one it was. As we wait for the chills to fade, I just have to send huge thanks to our guest, the incomparable Nita, for joining us and helping us navigate the psychological labyrinth that is Waltz.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. This was so much fun.
You're always welcome on our podcasts as well, on both of them. So, Nita, if there's anything you'd like to plug or anywhere folks can find you online, this is your moment. The floor is yours.
Yes, they can find me on in all of the platforms on the Sci-Fi Queens. Our next podcast episode for the Sci-Fi Queens is August 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to be reviewing the sci-fi movie Moonfall.
Yeah, Sci-Fi Queens, as I say, always recommend. And I'll leave a link to that episode that I was on and the general podcast in the episode descriptions. And you're just Sci-Fi Queens, as you say, everywhere online. So easy to find. So, yeah, massive thanks as well, obviously, to my brilliant acting first officer, Cardassian Queen, Lady Vean. Always a pleasure having you on this particular diplomatic mission. And I'm guessing you don't really have anywhere other than the usual for people to find you. Yeah,
my good old Blue Sky. Even that, I'm not on it a ton right now. But if anybody does want to chat, that's the best place to find me. Lady Vean, LadyVean. Comments or criticisms are welcome. I love a good debate. So.
Oh, boy. Be careful what you wish for. But anyway, as always, if you've enjoyed the ride, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the link tree in our episode description or Vean's lovely dulcet tones in our episode outro for all the ways you can support the show and connect with us online. And finally, with a little less foreboding than Dukat and Ben Sisko, I'll leave you with a little tease of what's coming up next. We'll be reuniting our established Row Squadron of myself, Jordan, and Rune for the second chapter of our Rolaren trilogy, Next Generation's Preemptive Strike. You won't want to miss it. And yeah, until next time, keep your mind sharp, your moral compass intact, and always check the distress beacon. And of course, do remember, we are Starfleet. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
You have been listening to the Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast, part of the Hit or Miss Who Trek channel. Hit or Miss Star Trek is hosted by Mike Wilson and Scripted, produced, and edited by Mike Wilson, based on an idea by Mike Wilson and Will Templar. Follow us on YouTube, your podcatcher of choice, and our social media. Links to all of these can be found by clicking on the link tree in the episode descriptions. This podcast is a Media Matters original production. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast throughout subspace. We'll be back for another thrilling trek through the stars soon, but for now, hailing frequencies closed.
Try to warp out of here at once, maximum speed.